I think Swapnil has his hand up if he wants to chime in.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. And really loving all the conversation, especially the Graham's tip of getting free food. I'm surely definitely going to try it out the next time I go to an event. But yeah, coming back to the point, really loving all the conversation and especially the point like getting out of your comfort zone. I consider myself as an ambivert, so not an like an introvert and extrovert depending on my mood. Yeah, like if you are if you are at an event, uh, recommend like getting out of your comfort zone and meeting new people, because you like one conversation can go to another conversation and you never know who you gonna get to know. And like it does not take much, like for an example, like if I see someone like Eddie and I do not know him, then I can just head up to him and I will say like, hey, hi, like how are you and what do you do? And then Eddie is just gonna say about he does open source and he's gonna explain more of it. And I'm gonna ask like follow-up questions like, oh, that's really cool, I also do open source. Then he's gonna ask me more like, what do you do specially? So I'm gonna say about freelancing. And you never know like where the conversation can take you, and just like, hey, how are you and what do you do? This can lead to follow-up questions, follow-up topics, and you can like uh, go like you can make that person as a friend, and then you can take that person to chat with more other peoples. And yeah, like that really works cool. So yeah, get out of your comfort zone and just start with, hey, hi, how are you and what do you do, like if you are nervous. So yeah, that's from me. By the way, am I audible?
We
Yes.
heard you. We heard you.
Perfect, perfect.
So who's next?
I
You
think that's
you
you,
just
Amanda.
volunteered.
Okay, thank you. So I will talk about people who say conferences are too expensive. Few things. See if your work can pay for it. That's for one. For two, if not, sometimes depending on some conferences have special prices for minorities or women, or they want to encourage certain communities or people who identify as who are part of a certain community, so they will provide special discounts for that group. Um, Sometimes conferences offer a specific number of tickets for people that are have a lower bracket of income. But if they don't offer any of these, look at your financial situation, and at the end of the day, even if you cannot exactly afford it, find a way to get there. See if you can get help from family and friends to help you get there, and look at the ROI of the conference. Look at the people who you're
Wait,
going to
wait, wait.
meet. What?
So I have to stop you there, because that's not necessarily a piece of advice I agree with.
Wait, I just
What's
want to
that?
finish. Wait, let me just
No, no,
one.
no, no, no. I'll stop you there. I see where you're going. Um, but don't stress yourself on money when it comes to conferences. Volunteer is the best way to do it. Reach out to conferences, offer to volunteer. If they say no, go to a different conference. Email a different conference.
That's a great way, actually. That's a
Yes.
great way.
And normally they give you a free ticket. If they
That's a
say,
great
oh,
way.
we don't offer a free ticket here, fine, go to a different conference. There are a lot of conferences, you don't have to stick with one.
Yes.
And you'll be surprised how many of them will say yes, because some of them actually need a lot of help. And most people just want to get value. They don't want to offer value. If you're there to offer value, just to volunteer, or even better, to speak. If you have that confidence to
Yes.
do that.
I will
That's
retract the last thing I said. I apologize. And another great way would be to start a meetup. Start your own meetup. A great way to meet people. A much more affordable way of bringing people together. And if it succeeds, you'll be a leader for that meetup as well. And thank you. Sorry for the last point. I actually derailed a bit. Thank you for correcting me, Wake. I appreciate it.
No worries. I just wanted to point that out. And for people who are just sort of starting to listen here, we are talking about 10 best ways to get a job in tech here. We've covered building in public, and we're sort of diving into, networking, especially in-person networking. It is a really important topic. But we're going to go into, the other topics, hopefully a little bit. The plan was to do like 10 minutes per each topic, but apparently everyone's passionate about networking. And I think that's a good thing. We don't have to spend an equal amount of time on each topic. Some of these things are more helpful than other ones, especially building in public and networking. Both of these topics are really helpful. But what I'm going to do now is, we have probably 1 more hour to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lay out all these methods, just quickly go over them. And then I'll do, free for all style. Whoever wants to go into any of these topics, they can go. And then we'll see what happens. So building public, networking with offline events, we already mentioned that. The reason I put offline events second is because when you meet people in person, you build like next level connections. Basically, I'm fine with online stuff, but I know a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable with online, offline connections. So going there and meeting local people, I want to emphasize that you don't have to travel. That's really helpful. And then online events, offline events, online events, either way, real-time connections are, in my opinion, more powerful than, general connections. So that's why I put them there. And then using your existing network, that's the number 4, that's often overlooked. Other general networking, so this is stuff like, talking to people on Twitter, talking to people on LinkedIn, stuff like that. Cold LinkedIn connecting and emailing, I put it below these networking. This is more immediate, right? It's more like I feel like I'm a good fit for this position. What do you think? So that sometimes works for sure, but networking in the long term, in my opinion, is more powerful than that. And then we have open source after that. Sorry, Eddie, it's number 7, but it's lucky 7. Let's just put it that way. And then we have freelancing, and then we have Tinder, which is, I know it's a joke, but Sean actually did get a freelancing client from Tinder, so there's something there. And then number 10, the bottom of the list is applying online. So you might say, oh, you didn't give us 10 ways, you only gave us 9 plus Tinder. So if you want 10, I will say building a community yourself is a good way to do that too. I would put it honestly as part of building in public, but if you want to separate it from building in public, then there you go. That's 10 ways to get a job in tech. And my job now is done.
Well done, YK. It's such a comprehensive list. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sure the panel up here has tons of insight as far as those things. Sean, since he mentioned you specifically, did you want to kind of deep dive into that topic? Or maybe not. Well, all you hands can fight. You know what to do.
I have a story similar to Sean, if you guys don't mind hearing it. Okay, I'll make it quick. This is 6-7 years ago. I finished my bachelor's degree, and I was looking for my UX. I was just looking to talk to people about UI UX design, 2016, and I posted an ad in Craigslist in the Platonic section. That led to me meeting 4 people. 2 of them offered me an internship. I ended up staying with one of them, a very, very early stage startup. They're called Concord, Concured. That's my story.
Wait. That was an amazing and quite scary stroke brave story, and I don't like using the word brave there, but I don't know what else other word to use for it. Expand on that. You literally put yourself in the platonic section saying what? That you were looking to network with people who are looking for jobs, or what? That's fascinating.
I put that I'm looking to get into a new field, and I just wanted to meet people and ask them a few questions about UI UX design and what it's like to work there, what's the job market like, or looking for advice. And I got a lot of replies. Let's just put it that way. I didn't put a picture of myself, nothing. It was strictly text as well. There's a lot of people out there that want to help, but you have to be also careful to weed people out. There are people that are, still looking for other things. So you just have to be very careful. I met them all in public, very public areas, very safe. So I was very mindful of that as well.
Well, I'm going to jump in because everyone's being shy. First of all, I love that story. I think since I were talking about many different topics, and the last one that YK mentioned was build in public, I'd consider that part of building in public, to be honest with you. It was literally, hey, this is what I'm wanting to do. Who out there is wanting to help me? It's the same as when you showcase what you're working on, what you're learning, and everything else. Like Nada said, there are lots of people out there who want to help you, who want to get involved, but if they don't know that you exist and they don't know what you're looking for, how can they help? The answer is they can't. It's impossible. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. Honestly, Nada, that's one of the best stories I've ever heard in terms of like putting yourself out there. But it's the same. It's, you've got the same mechanisms here. If you're on LinkedIn, put it on LinkedIn. In fact, I might even do that myself, Nada. I might just put it out there going, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm setting up a business. It's been a while, and I'd love to connect with other people who are just starting their businesses too, and see what happens. What's the worst that happens? Nobody answers. It's cost you all of like 10 minutes of your time. But the best thing that could happen is that you end up with a job like Ned. Like, that's an amazing story. So the building public thing, I'm going to just say this. Don't worry about people laughing at you. Some people will, because some people are just arseholes. Bear that in mind. But majority of the time, you're going to find good people who are going to be there and offer support, help, advice, maybe even get involved in whatever you're working on. And that's probably now triggered Eddie to go, but that's open source. Eddie, I think we should ban you from the open source topic. You should talk about everything else. No, I'm only joking. Right, whoever wants to go next.
Swapnil was next. Sure. So thanks, Eddie, for that. Love the point shared by Graham. I like, especially when I especially do a lot of build in public. I share about my projects, the things that I'm building, and I have personally got customers from it. I have personally got a lot of feedback from it. Not a lot of customers, but a lot of feedback as well. And actually, people are really here helpful, and they just message you and say like, if you want feedback, like we can also jump on a call, and they are the users itself who saw your thing on Twitter through your tweets, and they jump to call, and they really offer really great feedback, and it helps to improve your project, and even take it to more people. Then they also like suggest to other people, like if your product is good, if your project is good, they will suggest it to other people, and they will get to know more about you, more about your product. So really great point there. Also, like as YK shared all of the ways to get job, and one of them is freelancing. And now that this is freestyle, so I will talk a little more about freelancing. So recently I got a job from freelancing itself just 2 to 3 months ago. It's my third month as a full stack software engineer at one of the good companies. It's completely remote, and I am working in India from anywhere. Like I can travel around. Plus, the company is in Singapore, so there is like really great potential of, and great ways, different ways you can get the job. To speak specifically about freelancing, there are so many different ways. There are freelancing platforms which I personally love a lot, and from which I got my job. Then there is cold emailing, like you can message to like recently funded companies, top CEOs, and get clients from there. If I especially speak about freelancing platforms that I personally know more about is like Upwork and Fiverr. So the three key topics to this are like, first is your profile, make a good profile. Second is sending good proposals. So yeah, communication is one of the main topics. Like if you are a good communicator and if you have skills, then it's really easy to get clients over on these freelancing platforms. And third thing is like adding projects that are relevant to what clients are looking for. So if you head on to platforms like Upwork, and like even if you are starting new, so I started myself as a freelancer in my college days, in my first year itself. So for building projects, if I am new, I just went on to the platform Upwork. I saw the types of jobs that are being posted on the platform, and I built similar projects, and I just added those to my profile. So what this did is like, first of all, it improved my profile, and second thing is like, when I was sending proposals, I already had the projects that the clients were looking for, and I just mentioned them, and it helped me convince the clients that I'm the best person. Because if you have already done similar projects, you can, it helps you to convince the client that you're the best person for the specific job. The next thing is freelancing. Like it helps you to get remote job, of course, but it also starts an income. Like you do not have to like wait until you get a job. It starts you an income, even if one of the gig is short term. It will help you manage, like pay your bills, then also improve your skills, then get a real world experience. And yeah, that are just some of my tips to help you get started with freelancing. And yeah, there are so many resources out there you can check out on YouTube. There is Upwork pages, like resources, and there are so many other resources that you can check out and get started. Over to you, Eddie.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I've just shutting the door. Sarah's just started hoovering because I made a big mess. Unpacking boxes, polystyrene went everywhere. So I was just going to add something to Graham's, where he mentioned there are trolls and stuff, but the majority of people want you to succeed. So when you go to an event, and as an example, when you go to an event and you see someone go up on stage, they want you want them to succeed. So, have you ever thought when you're in the audience, oh, I hope that speaker, fails? No, you want them to succeed. So when you go up on stage, people want you to succeed. If you start a company like Graham mentioned, or if you start a project, or I didn't mention open source, but of course it's open source. But whatever you do, the community want you to succeed. They are super supportive. And there are the odd people who are just trolls. Just get friendly with that block button and just block them. Don't waste your time and energy on it. The majority of people in the tech community want you to succeed. So just put it out there in public. Just do it, go for it. We have 230 or so people here. Everyone, do check out the speakers on stage. They are some awesome people. And then also check out the amazing people in the audience as well. I won't call any out because YK might boot me off stage, but just go check them out. I've been doing that as well. So many great people. Awesome to geek out with you. I'll pass the mic over.
We'll go to Netta, but I just wanted to point out, Eddie, I am playing the how many times you say open source drinking game, and I need you to slow down a little bit here. It's getting a little crazy. Netta, go
Oh
ahead.
my God, I've been on my best behavior as well.
I'm kidding. I mean, you're the biggest advocate for it, and there's a good reason for it, so we always appreciate it. Netta, go ahead.
Thank you. This is more a question than a remark. So I spoke to a project manager, and he said a great way for me to build my portfolio as a project manager is to go on Upwork and find projects and do them and showcase them on my portfolio. Me and my lovely imposter syndrome getting in the way. Has anyone ever done something similar, but you're actually doing the client work? Unlike what Swapnil, I'm sorry if I botched your name, said, where he built it behind the scenes and he included it in his portfolio. His tip was actually get up there, do the work for the client, and do good work. If anyone else has ever done this, I would love to hear your experience or learn more about you. Or if this isn't the topic for this place, please DM me. Thank you.
So I would ask that person if they've done it, because I'm not an expert on project management per se, especially freelancing side. I don't even know if there's a freelancing project management project. That sounds slightly strange. So I would ask that. That's great.
Well,
Will do.
sorry to step on you. I would reach out to Augustine. I just heard about this project he did last year where it was like a whole kind of open source. They were doing Scrum meetings. He had project managers in there. It was like a whole real time sort of thing, and they just released what they worked on. I wish I had known about it. I'm super frustrated, but he would be a great resource for that. Um, yeah, that was all the input I had there. So.
I would love to have this discussion, maybe not now, but Neda, I hope I pronounced your name okay. I would say if anyone's got also tips or wants to discuss it, don't DM. Let's talk about it in public. As I always say, let's do everything in public. And I've been freelancing for over 10 years and I've also hired freelancers. So I'd love to have that discussion now or later. I'm more than happy to share.
Thank you, Eddie. And thank you, Jason. And thank you, YK.
So, sorry, YK. Do you need to jump in? I did actually have a point on this, but over to you if you need to go.
No, you first, Graham.
So first of all, I've made Eddie shy because surely the answer here would be open source software is way better than doing Upwork because everybody's got projects that need managing. And if you approached it with the, hey, I'm looking for project management experience, I'm sure many projects would love the help. And there's probably someone experienced there who could then give you a guiding hand when perhaps you stray away from what's expected of you as a project manager. So Eddie, I'm sorry if I've made you not want to talk about it. I was joking. That should have been the answer there. Nada, I will say this to you. My first ever software client was before I had ever written a single line of actual code. I did a load of networking. I presented myself as a software engineer, which is a little bit risky, I've got to say, because I didn't realize how complicated the job was. All I'd done before that was play around with macros in Excel. And I got a farmer who needed something building for them that let them track their crops. It was like crop management, basically. They did strawberries and they needed to be able to track how many strawberries were picked, and then that way they could pay their staff. That piece of software I built took me probably 20 times more hours than it should have done because I was learning as I went. But you know what? The client was happy. They're still using it to this day because you'll be so pumped to actually go that extra level for them that you'll probably deliver something 10 times the value of what they actually paid for. So go do it. I think that's a great bit of advice, is to just go and stop being so worried about, oh, but I don't know everything. Learn as you go. The worst case scenario is you make a mistake and then you just put some time aside to apologize and make it up to somebody. At the end of the day, most people, like we've been saying, are A, very forgiving, and B, will always appreciate when you stand by something and go, hey, I got that bit wrong, but you know what? This is what we can do to fix it. So don't let that stop you. I think it's a wonderful idea. Go do it. Get the experience that way. It's better to be paid to get experience than it is to just, do it all completely for free. Except, of course, if we're talking about open source, in which case contribute to something for free because that will come back in spades. There you go, Eddie. I backed up on that just so you're happy. Over to whoever was next.
Well, I'll double down on what Grim said. Even without the coding experience, I'm sure that there are open source things that you can contribute to, like documentation. So there, I plugged open source as well, Eddie. I think you owe me a t-shirt for that now. That being said, though, Graham, that story really resonates with me because that's also I have spades as far as experience like managing products, production, projects because of my film experience. I've done above and beyond, but the coding thing is a little bit more where the deficit is. So, but at the same time, like you said, you were presenting yourself as a software engineer. I'm doing the same thing. So I feel like again the testament to how you approached it is really important because you put yourself out there, and I think the important piece of it is transparency, because at the end of the day, I'm never going to commit myself to something I know I can't do. And if I can't, I'll be honest about it and tell them, like, again, if this is something you're interested in, I can figure it out, because there's so many resources that are out there to try to do those things. But again, that's where the soft skills come in. So there's where that balance is. But Grandma, I would love to hear more about that story sometime, just not in YK's space because he doesn't give a shit.
Wait.
Great.
I was away for a bit, and I don't know what's happening.
I know how to get you back up here, buddy.
Don't worry, YK. Jason was just doing what I do, which was insulting you when you're not here so that we don't get a response. It wasn't worthy of a response, so Jason's still not at the right level yet. He's working on it. Schwapner was going next, though.
Thanks, Graham, and I can agree with Graham. So YK, he was insulting you, everyone. So be present over here. But yeah, like coming back to the other point, as Graham mentioned, really agree with what you said. Like do it for the do it for the real world experience. I will say, like, even if you do, like, even if there is an imposter syndrome, even if there is a like chance of you thinking like you will fail, still do it, because you will get great experience. Like, you will get real world experience. And be it freelancing or be it open source, you will get a great experience. Plus, like, even if you fail, there are ways of handling this. Like, if you are working for a client and maybe he has paid to you, so and later, like, if you cannot do it, then there are ways to handle this. Like, you can first of all offer, like, if you are taken the payment, you can offer the refund. Plus, you can offer like future discount for the future projects. And just you have to be honest. Like, it's a communication point. Like, be honest to the client, say why you weren't able to do it. And like, offer a future discount so that you may not get that bad feedback if you are working on a freelancing platforms. Next thing is, like, even if you fail, you will get experience out of it, and you will know like why did you fail. And it may be like a skill issue. So if it is a skill issue, so you can go and learn that specific topic. Like, for example, like, first, like, for my well, when I was trying to get some freelancing client, so the first time I tried it, I failed. Like, I failed to do the sample work, and I was just honest to the client. Glad it was not like I did not accept the offer and it was just sample work. But from that point, I knew like what skills I lacked, and then I just went on to get those skills. And then I came back again after a month, and then I started working back. And so yeah, failures also will teach you a lot of things, and just get started. That's what I will say.
Thank you for that swap, Neil. Since everyone's being quiet, I guess I'll try to say a couple things. First of all, Jason, really appreciate you co-hosting. Really appreciate all your help with different things, as always. Eddie, good to see you. Leila, Sean, Graham, Swapnil, Nida, and Mustafa, who just joined here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and everything. I just mentioned on my timeline on this account that I said more shy people should speak on spaces. I really mean that, not necessarily in this one, because this one's a really big one, but in general, I see that shy people are kind of hesitant to speak up. Totally understandable. That's kind of what being shy means. But at the same time, sometimes they have a lot of good, valuable insights to share. So I do want to encourage them to, you know, come up. Sometimes, again, not necessarily in this space, but in general, do that. We have a lot of spaces. And I see Danny in the audience. I'm not sure if Danny is a shy person, but whether or not that applies to you, Danny, you should come up and share your thoughts and join the conversation if you want. No pressure, of course. And hey, yeah, one thing I should say, Graham, you said YK, you never joined spaces from your main account. Here, I did. Uh, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Graham, trust me. You weren't here. I already called him out on it. Let's be honest. That is phoning it the hell in. Not a fan. Not a fan.
No, I know how ridiculous it is. It's
Yeah.
a joke.
I think all of us are giving that a thumbs down. I wanted to speak to what you were saying about the shy or the quiet, right? These are the spaces in general are some of the best places to just like put yourself out there and try it. Maybe not this one, like YK said, but there are so many spaces every day, 24 hours a day, internationally. Just get out there, like put it out there, get into one, just say hi. That's all you got to do. That could be such a groundbreaking thing for anybody moving forward. In the space that I do every week, I've had so many people that have come in and never spoken in them, and they get so comfortable. I Ola Bode, I'm sure some of you know him. He never had been in spaces, came into the spaces, started getting really comfortable, started networking while he was in there, and he got a job doing open source, ironically, a couple weeks ago. Like that was such a cool thing because that's just the value again of like putting yourself out there, learning in public, building in public, all these things. Go ahead, Eddie.
I just wanted to add one little thing to that. It kind of overlaps, with open source, with freelancing. Um, he picked a really tough issue on our project, and we came across a few challenges, and I think a lot of people would have given up. And then he kept on working through it, asking for feedback, and the pull request wasn't necessarily massive in the end, but there were lots of challenges. It's not something that is done in many projects, and I was so impressed. I remember tweeting him out saying, "Wow, someone really dedicated." I would have given up, like even as my project, I would have given up a long time ago. And he really powered through, and we all learned something from it. And I remember tweeting saying, "Wow, this is amazing." And so I'm not surprised that he got a role. And I know I would recommend him to. I only know him from his pull request and from some tweets, but I know I would recommend him because just seeing how he communicated, he actually over communicated, which is a better way to be, right? Because everyone's level of communication is kind of what they think is perfect is very different. And so I think it's always better to slightly over communicate. And he always kind of explained what he was doing, why he was doing it, other alternatives he thought of but weren't going to work. And that's not only for open source. I mean, that's for the job. Going back to discussion about freelancing, when I hire people, most of the time I don't continue to the reason why, how can I explain this? I'm probably going to say this wrong, but you know what I all know what I mean. But if I don't continue to work with a freelancer, most of the time, 99% of the time, it's because of the lack of communication, lack of understanding what is going on. I'm not expecting everything to go perfect. We're in tech. We're going to come across surprises, challenges, unknowns, and all the rest. And that's not a problem. It's the lack of communication, I think, that is why I don't continue working with certain people on the freelancing side. And I think someone mentioned it earlier that a lot of companies and most people would hire someone who is better at communicating, but maybe has more work to do on the technical side rather than the other way around. Because if you can't communicate with someone and you can't work with someone, then it doesn't matter how great they are, it's always going to be a tough time. And most projects aren't just a single person project. Even if you're the only person coding on a project, you have a product owner or someone that you're dealing with and all the rest. You need to communicate with them. So yeah, it's great to hear their story, and I look forward to catching up on more about it. Hopefully we can shout it out more.
I want to welcome Heather on the stage. Good to see you here. Thanks for coming up. Layla, you've been quiet. Feel free to jump in whenever you want. Danny, good to see you as always. And I should ask, does anyone want to co-host? While we wait on that, actually, I kind of wanted to ask Eddie. I was a little bit shy to ask him. I don't know, Eddie, if you need to go soon.
No, go ahead. I'm unpacking, but I'm happy to chat and geek out, and I love questions. And you shy and someone shy to ask me questions. I love questions. Go for it.
All right. Let's see. Graham, let's go to you first.
My hand was up to say I'll co-host YK, but you've already chosen your stallion, picked the one out the herd. So I'll put my hand down, and you just go right ahead. It's fine. It's fine.
Wait. I did offer a, but I don't think the the person in question took the offer, right?
No, I
I thought it was a
quite
question
understood what
about
you were
open
asking.
source. I didn't realize about co-hosting. Yeah, get Graham to co-host this time. I'll do it another time with you, YK.
Oh, no. No, it doesn't work like that. I don't like being second fiddle. It's fine. You do it, Eddie. Don't worry. Next time, maybe.
Eddie, that was like another 7 times, by the way. I'm not going to be able to walk at this point. Let's try to refrain.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mustafa, how are you?
Hey, I am good. I appreciate the chance to talk with you today. I'm Mustafa and founder of AI to SQL. When I start AI to SQL is it turns words into SQL queries. When I started AI to SQL, I decided to use a building public approach. This means I shared each step of building AI to SQL openly on social media. Building public lets others see your progress, mistakes, and learning. It took 2 years to reach about 4K MRR. I shared this journey online. Social media was a big help. It connected me with the others who love tech. And also, I found great collaborations. I talk about my journey, what I learned, and also having a good online profile help others see what I am building is about. And also making AI to SQL public was important, and social media was a big help in sharing that. My suggestions: share your skills and projects on social media. It's a good way to show what you can do. Join tech groups on X and LinkedIn. You will meet others who share your interest. And again, don't be shy. Share your wins and learning online. And learn from others on social media. There is a lot of knowledge out there. Thank you for your time today. I hope my journey and the building public approach inspires you to share your own tech journey. Let's continue to learn from each other, build meaningful connections, and create impactful projects. And feel free to connect with me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Mustafa. Like I said, building in public, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. And in my opinion, maybe perhaps controversially, it is the best way to get a job in tech in this current economy. Not necessarily in any economy, but I'm just saying, in the current economy. So thank you for accepting my co-hosting request, Eddie. Great to have you here. I do have a meeting coming up in 28 minutes, so we'll either close it or we'll, ask Jason if he's.
Let's do this. Come on, YK. I got you. I'm actually gonna we're going to Five Below right now. Gonna go pick up some stuff. I got my daughter in here. Let's chat. Let's keep this going. Did the lawn. We're multitasking hard today. Yeah, see my daughter said, okay, don't be creepy. Come on. Nobody likes creepy. Jeez. All right, go ahead, YK.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I wouldn't dare to ask Eddie to stay there while I have my meeting, but if you feel like staying here, that'd be cool too.
Eddie's busy changing the world to open source, but I bet Graham's available.
Wait. Okay, I've got.
Also, Netta, probably.
Are we insinuating that we're going to create the part 2 of this space from a different account, or we're just going to let this one roll while YK is in his meeting? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, we'll keep going. Don't worry about that. We got this.
Okay.
So for the people who were requesting, if when people are really patient, I really appreciate it. When people follow me, I appreciate that too. But since we have, co-hosts, we'll see how that goes. But I think we still have a lot of value that we can extract from each speaker. If that might not be the right word. Let's say encourage each speaker to share. That's a better way to put it. So Danny, let's go to you. What's on your mind?
Saw the topic. I wasn't planning on coming up. I was planning on just showing some support. Just got out of the gym, so kind of had some good endorphins going and all that good stuff. Made sure got a good Muay Thai workout in and all that good stuff. So, I don't necessarily know what the 10 best ways that have been covered already. But the subject matter definitely intrigues me. Obviously, this is something that I talk about a lot, trying to help folks get jobs, or at least market themselves in ways. And the funny thing is, it's not even exclusive to like junior devs. I can't even begin to tell you. Matter of fact, I made a video about this just the other day. I had back-to-back calls with staff software engineer, senior software engineer, even a tech lead, and they can't land an interview. They can't land a job. One of them even mentioned how they thought their resume was fantastic. They made all these comments like, "Hey, I've had a bunch of developers. I even had an engineering manager look at my resume, and everyone, they think it's great. So I can't understand why I'm not getting a call back after I submit my resume." And I looked at the resume, and within literally a 10-minute conversation, they had over a page of notes and adjustments because a lot of developers just suck at writing resumes, and it's because it's not in their skill set, it's not in their day to day. They only make it when they need to make it, and some of them just look at it as like a checklist item on a to-do list as opposed to something that kind of positions them for the conversation. And what's funny is you should just I wish I could record these, but nobody has felt comfortable with me recording it being completely blunt and honest. And their face that just changes, and it's so visibly obvious that like a lot of this has gone over the head to where they never even realized that these were like blatantly, I guess for someone who maybe looks at resumes all the time, it's extremely obvious. Where for them, it just kind of was like, oh, I just kind of just rushed through this real fast. I'm surprised people aren't absolutely in love with this thing. But as soon as you point out a lot of these obvious mistakes, they're like, why didn't I notice this before? Why did it take somebody else pointing it out to me? And to be honest, it happens so often that it's pretty common now, but it's always interesting to see visually how their demeanor, their face, and their expressions change during that conversation of pointing those things out. So if there's a way I can help, I'm happy to do it.
Appreciate you being here, Danny. And I think just to a testament to the building in public, you're building your fitness journey in public too, which is awesome to see. Go ahead, Netta.
Great minds think alike. I was actually going to say that. And I think this is an opportunity for the tech community. As you're building your career, building yourself in public is another great way. And by that, I mean your evolution in these communities. Danny, for example, when I say something is missing in the tech community is I do not see many people in tech talk about their fitness journey. And earlier, YK was bringing up a great point when I look at my notes about eating healthy, exercising, eating well, sleeping well. And perhaps we should promote this a little bit more in the tech community. And we should build ourselves up as people as we are also building up our skills. This is just food for thought. Thank you.
Really love all the points shared by like Danny, Neda. Just a quick point, like as Danny shared, like we as a developer sometimes know, like we focus on tech skills, we focus on communication and applying and all that. But yeah, like you get actual, like you improve when you start sharing all of the stuff, like not just your projects, but also like your resume. You talk about this stuff in the public, you join communities, and you talk with real experts who have been there, and you can get feedback. Just getting feedback from many people lets you like grow and improve on things like that you are not some like maybe good at. So like sometime like resume, if I'm not good at something, I will just share it on like a community, like maybe Danny's community or some other community, and I will just get feedback and I will try to improve. this, like, not just with projects, with resumes and all of the stuff, like it really helps you to improve and focus more on things that you like never know, which may like land you a job, which may land you a gig, and like more opportunities. So great point, Danny, and great point, Ned, as well. Yeah.
I just thought to maybe talk a bit. Um, Hello, everyone. Really thank all the host speakers and everyone for hosting this amazing space on getting a job in tech. And I think it's really important topic. Like we have YK, Jason, Sean, Graham, Danny, and all the amazing speakers. Sorry if I skipped anyone. But just wanted to mention regarding YK's meeting in a couple of minutes. YK as speaker will be going there, but Spaces Dojo as a host will still be there. So we'll still meet. The space should continue to go on, and just hoping for the best. And as Daddy mentioned about the point regarding resumes and all, I think I would love to add something over there, and that's like many resumes don't have text highlighted, like what's the key stuff you do at your company, whether that's bolding it. In fact, they just lay down the points, or even in the form of paragraph, okay, I am a full stack developer, I did this and that. No, that's not how. You need to highlight what you did at that XYZ company, whether that's by just making the text bold or building pointers for it. And usually for freshers newly starting in tech in the job market, the resume should be about a page or so. And maybe for more experienced developers, it can go for 2 pages. And that's it from my thanks.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Top tier co-hosting there, Eddie. Come on, wake up. Go on, Eddie.
I was letting Danny go first. Danny's hand went up a second before mine. So Danny, over to you.
Yeah. So a couple things. Not to seem combative, and I think everybody has their own approach. I will say, because of the nature of this space, I feel like I should say this vocally, that I slightly disagree with some of the advice that Devarshi just shared. It may work in some instances. I do think that your primary focus when it comes to your resume should be the readability factor and how easy it is to read things. If you have the time and space to write so much content that you need to bold certain things to make it stand out, then we're really lacking our brevity here, and we should be focused more on being very laser focused and specific with our points. I always say that your resume should follow the 3 S's: short, sweet, specific. We shouldn't be going too far in depth. Your ultimate goal with your resume is to pique interest to the point that they say they need to have a conversation with you. And then you can share your autobiography in overwhelming details in the interview process, but never before. And that's the whole reason why is I want them to develop questions based off of my resume. So if I'm bolding things, it means I've added so much text around it that it's that the need to emphasize it is there, instead of that point just living by itself. The other thing is, when it comes to resumes, honestly, and there's 2 things I'll address. One is a comment that was actually left in the comment section that tagged me in this. And they said, how do you feel about showing your picture on resumes? Several years ago, my answer to this question was actually very different than the answer it is today. And the answer today is, you should only add a photo to a resume if you are in a country or a region where this is a very common and expected practice. There are some countries that will absolutely disregard your resume if it doesn't have a photo on there. This was something that I learned. I didn't know that before. If you are in America or North America in any way, shape, or form, do not put a photo on a resume. But if you are in some areas, like I believe Germany is one example, where it's mandatory to have that on there, you must add that photo then in that scenario. Because there's no point of getting your resume thrown out because you didn't add a photo in the corner. So your region definitely is determining factor on there, but the default should be no unless you must, then it is yes. So if condition statement right there, right? Like, but essentially that's the way that I approach that. The other thing is, don't look at your resume as a thing where it's like I need to fill in points. And one prime example was the conversation that I had just the other day, where they felt like they had to have more bullet points, so they kind of wrote things in there like uh, assessed, purchased, and renovated properties or communicated directly with guests. People kind of assume that when you're a front position with customers, right? You kind of know that you're going to communicate with the guests or the customers or whatever it may be. You don't need to add those random bullet points in there. So don't just add filler for the sake of having that filler. Make sure if you're adding a bullet point, there's substance to that bullet point, right? I don't care what position you were in. I don't care if it was technical or non-technical. I feel that if you have some kind of contribution, you should be talking about that. And the big thing why I specify contributions particularly is it allows and it positions you in a situation to where they develop questions based off of that contribution. So for me, when I look at my resume, LinkedIn, etc., I'm thinking, what can I put in here that makes them want to ask me questions about things that I've already discussed, as opposed to them picking out questions from a completely adjacent area that I know nothing about. So that's the focus. Add those contributions to kind of get them talking about you and asking you relevant questions related to it.
Good call. Thanks, Danny. Go ahead, Eddie.
I was just going to say something on the bit point we were talking before about, Danny sharing his gym routine and so forth. And I think that's really important. I think definitely over the last 15 years, I've seen the tech industry change. 15 years ago or 10 years ago, it used to be who can do the most hours in a day, who can do all that kind of crazy stuff. And now it is more important. It is focusing on that work-life balance and eating healthy and going to the gym. And so I just wanted to mention that I can't remember her Twitter handle. Graham can probably help me out. Cat, I think it's Fit Cat
Catalyst
Devs or
Cat.
something. Catalyst Cat, that's the one. And the community is called Fit Devs, I think. So go check that out. They do share their they've got some open source projects about sharing kind of your eating tips and your routine and so forth. And I think it's great that people are doing that. That is super important. It's not about who can code the most hours, and as we said, communication is important. Also health. How many times? I bet let me see some reactions of people in the audience. How many times have you been up, till late going, I'm not going to go to bed. This is my example, but I'm sure other people get this as well. I'm not going to go to bed until I fix this bug. And you're there till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning and you go, you know what, I give up, I'm going to bed. And then you wake up and in the first 10 minutes you fix it. And it's just like, oh, if I just done that, 4 or 5 hours before, I would have saved myself 4 or 5 hours. And that's important. And I know people do tweet that I'm going to touch some grass or going out, have that break, have that creative time. And we've actually got that in our calendar for me and Sarah as digital nomads. We make sure we have like down tools for like 2-3 hours once a week, no phone, just pen and paper. We go for a walk or we go do something, go for a picnic, and we'll just try and think outside the box, just be super creative. And we get some really awesome ideas there. And we love sharing that with the community and bringing them as part of the journey as well. But yes, there are communities out there in tech that are focusing a little bit more on the fitness and health, and I highly recommend just checking them out.
I love that. That's super inspiring. As a lifelong runner, I do try to, get that out there. I love to connect with other people that are doing types of things like that. So thanks for bringing that up, Eddie. I don't know who had it, whether it was Graham or Netta, but I'm gonna let Netta go because lady.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that one of my friends, who's a senior product manager, is actually leading a team and they're building a product called the Fitness App. It's tagged in the comments. They're trying to combat loneliness and social isolation with fitness. So it's a very interesting concept, and I always support the people around me, and especially in tech. So please do check it out. Thank you.
Go ahead, Graham.
I'm loving all of the points here, but I'm going to go back to YK's list to try and one that we don't talk about often in these spaces, which is the cold outreach one. A lot of times we'll have a very quick conversation on it, and then we'll move on. Mainly because I think most people hate it and it's horrible. But I'd love to sort of open the floor up a little bit with the what do you do when you're cold outreaching to people? Whether it's, we're here for 10 tips to get a job in tech, but I'd love to hear the sort of general principles of cold outreach that people follow, because perhaps they haven't used it for getting a job in tech, but I still think it's a useful tool. So, YK's back.
I
Awesome
think,
question. Go ahead, YK.
yeah, I think you know what I'm gonna say. I will just reflect it back to you, Grab. What do you do?
Okay. I knew you were going to do it. I knew it. Here we go. So, I've never used cold outreach for a job. So I want to make that very clear. But I do believe that the rules of engagement are the same. I used to use it a lot for getting work for my company. And essentially, I would always make sure that there were three things included in that. One was something that made sure it had some personalization. Didn't have to be a lot, and I'm not talking just the name. It was literally something to show that I've spent more than 10 seconds looking at this person's profile. I'll find something interesting or something I can ask a question on. Reason being is everybody gets spammed all the damn time. We all hate cold outreach, really. And if you put something in there, at least it shows a little bit of effort. And it's like a nice way to make someone go, oh, you know what? They've put the effort in. I'll read the rest of the message. Second point was I would tell them exactly why I'm reaching out. No beating around the bush, all of that crap. Most people are busy. They don't really care for your long rambling story. Just tell them why you're reaching out. Hey, I happen to run a company that does e-commerce websites. Noticed your e-commerce website was running a bit slow. We'd love to do this for you. And then finally, make sure you tell people what you expect from them, and just be very direct with that. So it's like, I would love to have a chat with you. Here's a link to my Calendly. Although we didn't have Calendly back then, we had to have a form and all sorts of wonderful, weird, wonderful ways of doing that. But I'm just showing my age there. Nowadays, you've got Calendly. Use that. That used to be my formula. And then I would just follow up. I only followed up once with most people if they didn't respond. I'd just follow up a week later saying, hey, I sent you a message, you're not saying anything, would love to see if you have time for a chat. If they did respond, then obviously follow-up's completely different, but that's beyond the scope of this conversation, I believe. So that was my method, but I'd love to hear like what people think. Do they hate it? Have they used it? Have they had success with it? It worked well for the business offering a service. I'm intrigued whether it works well for getting a job, and I don't have the answer to that, but it was part of YK's question, so I thought I'd bring it up.
I want to tweak that method just a little bit. And this is a method I learned from a book. Never Split the Difference, or it could be in a different book. But anyway, instead of in the follow up or in the subsequent follow up after that, if you want to do two follow ups, it might be too much. What I would do is I would assume sort of that they don't want it. So I will say, I reached out to you. Let's say I reached out to you a week ago. Since you haven't responded, I'm going to assume that you're not interested, or that I'm not a good fit. And I think this is a better approach because you're giving them space. You're giving them less pressure. You're not saying, "Did you look at my email? Can you consider it?" You're giving them space and saying, "I'm going to assume that you're not interested. That's totally fine. If you're interested, that'd be great. But either way, thank you for reading this." Something like that.
Was that for me to comment on? Sorry, you left that one quite abruptly, YK.
No, I just dropped the mic on the floor.
Wait, literally or metaphorically? But either way, I feel like you made your point. Graham, did you have a rebuttal? And then we can go to Netta and Sean.
Not even a rebuttal, and since this one's falling flat, I think we'll leave it at this point. Just a very quick comment of, don't go on the negative on your follow-up. YK, you were saying about obviously be polite and everything, don't be pushy, but I certainly wouldn't start with, I'll assume you're not interested, because then you can literally plant that into someone's head. So just I go far simpler that with that, which is just, hey, did you get a chance to look at the above? If you're interested, reach out. Not, I assume you're not interested. It's a weird,
Yeah.
slight change, but it makes a big difference.
Okay. So, the exact wording is less important. It's more about, you know, like the way you phrase the. I'll try to remember what you said exactly. I think you said, "Hey, so can you repeat that, Graham?"
Literally, the point was be on the positive side of it. So, if you are interested, contact me. Not, I will assume you're not interested. Just doing
Yeah.
that slight change.
So to me, that feels not right, because from the other side, right? I get all these emails, as like not all the time, but sometimes, pretty often, and I don't like them necessarily, unless it's like a really actually a good fit. So I'm thinking, okay, I get an email, maybe I'm busy, and then I miss it a week later. Hey, did you get a chance to look at it? If you're interested, reach out to me. I'll be like, so let's say I'm not interested, right? That's annoying. Even if I'm interested, I will say, oh, I don't know, like it's like too much pressure for me, like because this person has never talked to me before, right? I'm kind of trying to think out loud here. But if someone says, "Hey, a week ago I emailed you. No worries if you're not interested." Maybe there's a good middle ground there. So how about this, Grab? Hey, I reached out to you a week ago. No worries if you're interested, but if you are, feel free to reach out to me.
I think we could spend a long time. We could probably do a whole space on this, and I don't want the space to become it. I was hoping someone would actually have had some job stuff because we're talking business to business. All I can say from B2B is the positive was far more successful than because I did what you said. And B2B, it was always the positives on it that worked better for conversion rates to actually get people. The whole point of the follow up was literally to see just in case they'd missed it, because it's so easy to miss an email or miss a notification. That's why I always stayed on the positive side. And overall, that seemed to work better from what I got out of it. And like I said, I did it a lot. It may be completely different with recruiters and jobs. And I'm going to emphasize that one last time, because that's the bit that we're here to talk about. It was just, I wanted to bring the subject up to see whether someone had success with it. I've had
Okay.
success from the business side.
So I do want to see data on that if you have it, just to see what that looks like exactly. Because the way I just phrased it, no worries if you're interested, but if you are, let me know. Like that's still on the positive side. Like you could say it started from the negative side, and I think this does apply to jobs too, because it is all about networking. And I can share one particular piece of story from my recent experience. I briefly met someone at a networking event in Vancouver, and I actually didn't have a chance to talk to this person. So what happened was someone said someone there is a VC. I'm not raising at the moment, but I thought, hey, I don't know a lot of VCs. It would be cool to talk to her, but she was leaving, so I thought, okay, I'll just hold the door for her, providing value, right? Like however small it is. So I held the door and I was like, you know here you go. I heard that you're VC, but it looks like you're leaving. So great to meet you. I don't know. Like I always use this approach, like no pressure. This stuff I always say here, right? Um, so and then she was like, hey, I love to talk to you, but here's my name tag. Like she literally gave me her name tag so I can find her on LinkedIn. So I found her on LinkedIn later. I added her, and I said, "Hey, I basically I'm the person you gave your name tag to, something like that." And then she recognized it, and she was like, "Happy to chat." I was like, "Cool, let's chat. Should I send you my calendar or So we had this conversation, and then she dropped off. 10 days later, I messaged her again. I was like, hey, I haven't heard back from you. Uh, Maybe you're not interested, or maybe I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I said something, in that line. And then she was like, oh, let's do it. Basically, she sent me her Calendly, and we have this connection. So my approach worked, every step of the way, like not giving them too much pressure, but at the same time, sort of staying on the positive side, like you said.
As I said, I'd love to do a space on it. The only reason I've held back is, like I said, this is B2B, cold outreach. It's quite different and different to that scenario as well. I would handle that differently. The B2B was very much a numbers game. All I can tell you, because I wouldn't have the exact numbers on that, is we upped our conversion rate from about 1% at the beginning to about 3% at the end. And if anyone here has done any B2B stuff, they'll know that 3% conversion on cold outreach is astounding. And it was always on the just literally assume that someone wants your product, assumes that they want to talk to you, and always go on the positive side. So that's the only data point I have for you. It was over several years and lots of DMs, so I hope it's half decent, but it's one business, one person. Yet again, could have been that we had a great product that just happened to get popular. Then the outreach was good. The outreach could have been absolutely terrible. We just happened to have good timing, perhaps. Who knows? I don't know. This is the point. It's a small data set.
Right. That's cool. We don't have to go into too much on that, but if anyone listening has some data on that, an article on that, anything like that, that we can take a look, feel free to put it in the comment section and I'll try to take a look at that. I want to welcome Vicky on the stage. Welcome. You said earlier you can maybe join later. I guess now is the later, so thanks for joining us. And I'm dropping off a little bit. I'll be away for a little bit, but I trust the co-hosts to be able to take care of it in the best way they can, like space experts that they are. So let's go to you, Eddie.
YK, I was just going to say I have to leave as well. It's been an amazing space. Sorry I can't stay longer, anyone. It's just been over 2 hours, but I do have to go. I just want to say you've all been awesome. I'd love to hear what Vicky has to say, Nida, Danny, and all the other people are going to chat. I'm sad to be going, but I will catch up on the recording. It's being recorded. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Remember, take a break as well at the weekend. Remember, open source. I just did a reply to the threads. We didn't talk too much about open source today. I know Jason's a bit sad about that. And I did pin at the top, if it's okay, YK, if not, remove it. I have a Twitter space tomorrow, Francesco and Paduma, and we're going to be talking about getting the job of open source. Hopefully see some of you there and your questions. And I'm talking to Nida about a space dedicated on freelancing. If anyone wants to join us on stage, let us know. It'd be great to have you there, and we'll set that up maybe for next weekend. Everyone have a great weekend, and I look forward to geeking out soon. Thank you, everyone.
Always a pleasure to have you, Eddie. You are such a contributor and a value to the community. I didn't see whose hand was first. We got Netta and Danny. I'll leave it to you two.
I can wait. Danny, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Thank you very much. You're a true gentleman. I just wanted to talk about cold networking for the job search very quickly. I shared a resource in the DMs. First half of the video, he talks about building your LinkedIn profile. Obviously, this is a dev community. I would guide you to Danny's content for that. I think it's more relevant to your community. But the second half of the video, it's on YouTube. He talks about networking on LinkedIn. He covers like 15 to 16 different methods, including cold outreach. What I will add to cold outreaching myself is you want to seem like you're likable to the person, you're authentic, but also you have something in common with the person. So just like, Daddy said, take time to tailor your resume to the job so they have a reason to call you back and contact you and ask you questions. Do the same for your approach for cold networking. Spend time to research who the person is, what university they went to, if you were part of the same alumni group, or if there's a specific topic you like, they gave a speech. Find something they shared online, comment on it, show how much it resonated with you, but be authentic about it. Mention that in your cold outreach, and mention it at least in the first sentence. and make sure that they don't feel like they have to commit. Just mention you really appreciate them, whatever they said resonated with you because of XYZ, and you would like to, and this is the part I would ask people for help. Like, how would you ask the person to not get the perception that they're committing to a discussion with you? Perhaps they have 1 or 2 questions, or you would like 10 minutes to ask them something. But I think the 1 or 2 question thing is more works better. But I'll leave that up to you guys to help me fill that gap. Thank you.
I love that, Netta. Appreciate the input totally. Just wanted to welcome the new people up to the stage. Dan, good to see you. Haven't seen you in one of my spaces that I was involved in for a while. So good to have you up here. We got Vicky up here. And I think Danny Thompson was up next. Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, so I can say a couple things here. I only caught some of what Netta said, unfortunately, because I was walking to my car, and so I'll try and fill in because I heard one thing in regards to like the number of questions to ask and things like that. So for me, I actually, when this question first came up in the space, I went back and looked at my old LinkedIn DMs to see what were some of the DMs that I sent to people in the beginning, right? And so for me, especially like approaching this from the perspective of you don't have a job in tech and you're trying to get a job in tech. I think, and to be honest, this networking approach also applies even in casual conversation. Your ultimate goal is to give them a reason to have that conversation, number one. But number two, your ultimate goal is to at least let them know who you are and what you're about in the shortest way possible. I can't even begin to tell you, right? And I'll even tell you this as I'm looking through this room, there are people literally in this room that have reached out to me, that have commented on stuff, that have tried to create communication with me, where I still don't even know what they're about, who they are, what their intentions are, like anything about their career. I don't know anything about them. So if I don't know anything about you, where's the incentive or the idea for me to want to continue that conversation throughout? Or if one of the first things that you kind of bring to me, right, is you kind of want to put me to work right away, where's the incentive for me to want to work for someone I don't even know on something that's not going to benefit me, right? So for me, when it comes to networking, especially from the perspective of getting a job, number one, I'm qualifying myself almost immediately, right? Like my qualifying myself means I'm giving you a reason to understand who I am, what I'm about, why there's some validity for me even reaching out to you. Number two, when especially when I'm talking about cold outreach for jobs, I often say, hey, and this is what the DM that actually got me the job in tech for a job that my first job in tech was a company called Front Door. I literally messaged the head recruiter that I found online, right? I saw that they had the job listing kind of listed there. And I said, hey, I see that you're hiring for an L2. Here are 3 reasons why I think you and I need to have a conversation. 1, 2, and 3, right? I have the skill set that you need for this role, and I have the technologies and the understanding of those technologies to make sure that I'm a valuable developer on the team. I'd love to have a conversation for us to explore this further. And what I would really like to do is to make sure that I can understand some of the core contributions that you'd be expecting of a team member, so that way I can make sure that these are qualities that I bring to the team. That's what I wrote, right? This could definitely be a lot better now, but at that time, going off of what I had, that's kind of what I went with, right? But what did they end up doing after I DM'd them? And it's the same thing that people still do to this day if you reach out to them, right? They looked at my profile. And when your profile's set up the right way, and this applies to any social media platform as far as I'm concerned, it's not just a LinkedIn thing or something else, but if your Twitter profile set up the right way and an image that you want to emulate and showcase to others, the very first time I land on it, I'm a viewer. You have the opportunity to convert me from a viewer to a follower based on how you set up the landing area of your profile, right? If I feel comfortable with you, if I feel like my interest is piqued and I want to know more, that landing of the area of your profile just did a phenomenal job at that, right? But if I land on your profile and I don't really know much about you, I don't know what you're about, I don't know what your intentions are, I don't know where your contributions have been, none of that really compels me to want to find out more about you. And so when you have a LinkedIn profile, think about it. 80%, by the way, these are some of the stats in the new course that we created. I got these numbers from LinkedIn themselves. 80% of people on LinkedIn are a decision maker for their business. Now, it may not necessarily be a decision maker for hiring, but they're a decision maker, period, meaning they're deciding buying, they're deciding selling, they're deciding hiring, they're deciding employment, they're deciding tech stacks, all decision makers, right? 80% of the users, the quality of those connections are pretty high. So if I'm reaching out to them, obviously I want to, even if it's B2B or if it's trying to get a first job in tech, if I'm reaching out to them, I want to be very intentional. I want to be very smart about this. And I want to set my profile up so where even now when I DM folks, the first thing they do is check out my profile. I see it all the time because, especially with like LinkedIn Premium shows you who's checked out your profile. I see it all the time when they check out my profile, right? They didn't know I existed before I sent that message. Now they do because they saw the message, they check out my profile, right? That profile then helps me kind of increase the rates of number of replies that I get because they feel, whoa, I really like what Danny did here. I like the contribution there. I see the fact that he's really involved with the community. I see that there. Oh, I see that he has job experience. Oh, I see he's volunteered here. He's done all that speaks for you outside of the confines of that message. And it kind of really puts you in a really strong position to have a better conversation, rapport, or even what ends up happening is if your message is pretty strong, you end up getting a response. It's like, well, let's set up a call. Boom, you're in interview number one. Now, I will say this to one point that Graham made earlier. I used to be really big on cold outreach via DMs. My stance on that has changed like as of like 2021. And the reason why is even for myself, I would send DMs to people and I just wouldn't get replies at times, right? And for me, I'm not doing the copy paste method because it doesn't really work. But I was crafting those DMs. So I'm spending all this time to craft a message and send it to somebody who ghosts me. It's a lot of wasted effort. But if I comment on their post publicly, everyone in their network now sees my reply. Well, developers know other developers, right? If you look at some of your following, people following you, what are they doing? They're not in finance and stock options, right? They're talking about computer programming because you're a developer, you're hanging out with other devs. Same thing here. Developers know other developers. Recruiters know other recruiters. Hiring managers know other hiring managers. Like-minded people keep like-minded people around them. So when I comment on this stuff publicly, but I'm not saying something like, I need a job, I'm in this country, or I'm in this network, or I'm in this region, or I'm in this city, and I need a job, can you help me out? No, I'm adding value to the overall discussion. Oh, they're talking about React server components. It's interesting. I'm still using functional components and I'm intrigued by the idea of React components. And I'd like to know more. I'd like to do this, or I actually utilized this in ABC scenario when I was testing it out. I add value to the overall discussion to the point where now people are interested, and people that see that post that are about that topic, that are interested in that topic, are now seeing my response that's also interested in that topic, and they end up coming to my profile. My profile set up, guess what? They end up converting from a viewer to a follower. I get more people interested in me checking out my DMs from a hiring capacity. Now those people, guess what? They're in my DMs. They're reaching out to me with opportunities. And I didn't have to cold outreach every single time to that individual. I'm just putting it in a place now where if I were to send one DM, only one set of eyeballs sees it. But if I put it on a public post, maybe 1,000 people see it, or 100 people see it, or 50 people see it, or 10 people. Regardless of the point, it's 10xing, 50xing, or 100xing the amount of views it gets for the amount of effort. So the reward for the amount of time you invest in it is significantly higher. Now, I will say this is the last point that I'll give. I tried this as a test when I was leaving Google, and I really liked it a lot. I met a lot of cool people. But I cold outreach to a lot of folks, and I just gave the opportunity to have 10-minute conversations. And I made it very emphatic that we will not exceed the 10 minutes. And the reason why I love that is because every single minute of that conversation is 10% of the conversation. So even if you look at like some of the one-on-one calls I do, they're 10-minute calls. We're not there talking about what we thought about the weather. We're not there talking about like, oh, this is my favorite restaurant, you should check it out. We're in there talking about progress, business, and things that can be very useful for either person in that conversation. I can't begin to tell you how often I had people agree to a very strict 10-minute conversation as opposed to an open-ended, hey, can we have a coffee chat? Or, hey, can I have a conversation with you? Now, obviously, this is not going to work on everybody. But for the vast majority of people, if you're qualifying yourself initially as well and they have some kind of piqued interest, 10 minutes is a very interesting opportunity to have a conversation with somebody. it's different as well, because I can't begin to tell you how many CTOs of companies I ended up getting have a conversation with when I said it's going to be a very strict 10-minute call. It won't exceed 10 minutes. They're like, well, okay, that's interesting. I can give you 10 minutes, especially if we're sticking to the 10-minute no matter what. Then after the fact, you know what? I'd say probably 80% of the people I end up talking with were trying to set up another time with me to talk. So it keeps that perpetual relationship going on for the long run. And so that's like, one extra little thing I throw in there. Don't use it every single time, but try to use it very strategically. But no matter what you do, do one thing every single time. Be intentional. Just be very intentional with how you're approaching things, how you're discussing things, and how you're laying them out. Because if you do that, you're going to find people really, really liking you and wanting to stick around for the long term, as opposed to people just throwing you to the side. Because I can tell you right now, before I had a job in tech, there were a lot of people that didn't know who I was, especially in the tech sector. But because of the way that I approached it, even when it came to rejections, you know how many times they came back to me later on down the road with another opportunity? That's how I got so many referrals into so many places. That's how I still know people from when I first tried to get a job in tech. They're still in my network to this day because we both liked each other. We both hung out. They brought me countless opportunities, even freelancing opportunities, even brand opportunities. Like, you'll be so shocked where one conversation can take you. So just be very intentional about it. Hope this helps.
Awesome, Danny. Be intentional. Such a great point. Layla, go ahead. Good to see you up here. Happy Saturday.
Yeah, happy Saturday. Thanks for having me up here. I was just kind of going to go off of some of the things Danny said. Um, Basically, interacting with the right people is what landed me my first internship with Oracle in summer 2022. Interacting with the right people on Twitter, and just genuinely providing valuable responses and inquiring, like, intentionally about what they were talking about in regards to Oracle stuff, just because I was very interested in that stuff at the time. So I made an effort to go out into the Twitter sphere. I literally like searched, the Oracle keyword, Oracle database, Oracle SQL, etc. And I found kind of like the top 5, 10 creators that were creating content about Oracle database. And I kind of began following them, interacting with their content genuinely, because that's what I was genuinely interested in, and making content about Oracle database as well in my journey, learning Oracle database and Oracle SQL. And then lo and behold, after interacting, with the right person, which is now my manager at Twitter or at Oracle on Twitter, I was somehow interacting with my manager and I had no idea that he was even a product manager at Oracle. I don't know how I didn't read it in the bio. But I get a senior director of database product management in my DMs in summer 2022, or before summer 2022, I guess, like 2 months before the summer, basically asking me if I can join in 2 months in the summer and be an intern. That they love my enthusiasm about Oracle database. That they could really use someone like me in the community, in the Oracle community, to really push their products into the ether and shout it into the ether, and really just bring back a sense of passion and excitement about Oracle's products. Just because I'm sure a lot of you, when you think of Oracle, I'm sure a lot of you don't, think, oh, this what they're doing is so cool and exciting. But since I've joined and been involved in Oracle since 2022, and now I'm a full-time engineer there, I really see a lot of the incredibly impactful, amazing things that Oracle's doing, and their super crazy attempt to kind of not rebrand, but kind of just kind of reframe kind of how everybody thinks about Oracle. And they literally are using me as kind of like a spear, kind of not spearheading that effort on social media. And literally, my Twitter is what just snowballed all of this. Just genuinely interacting with people, finding creators that are creating content about things that I'm genuinely passionate about. And I did not even need to cold DM anybody. I got reached out to by a senior director at Oracle, just because I was replying to tweets and just super freaking pumped about what they were doing there. So that's all I have to say.
Such an awesome story about how you got to where you are. And again, the power of networking and the power of community. Always appreciate you up here, Layla. Let's go to Netta and then welcome Raphael to the stage.
Hey, thank you for letting me speak again. I just wanted to kind of connect some dots with what Danny was saying. You want to give the person a reason to contact you, and I got several people who reached out to me and asked for a coffee chat without no context of who they are. They said, I really like your content, but that's the point I want to make. You like my content, that's great. What impact did it make on you? How did it help you? What specific part of my content resonates with you, or what aspect of my profile resonates with you? So, um, besides talking about yourself, make it first about that person and show genuine interest in that person and be specific. Not only about your ask, about who you are, and connecting the dots about what they have and what you have to offer and how it's a good marriage and partnership, but why are you reaching out to that person? What difference did that person make on you? You know, what's the impact they made? That's really, really important. You want to seem likable, but please do it in an authentic way. And I think Layla beautifully said that. Like I sense her authenticity all the way from Vancouver, Canada, just by her voice. And that tone can also be said over text as well. So thank you.
Great points, Netta. I mean, that whole intention thing, it all goes back to that. And I think a lot of people have said it in the spaces. The best way to communicate is to listen more. And again, I think that that's so important. Let's go to Raphael. Welcome to the stage.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Wanted to jump in this topic. I really like the topic of learning in public and also networking. I had the chance to speak on a Hashnode bootcamp fall, and I actually talked about this. I titled the presentation "Build Connections and Open Source and Unlocking Opportunities." In my presentation was all around a concept that I learned from Joe Privet. I got the chance to interview him for the podcast at the Frico Camp podcast in Spanish. And he brought this article that is titled Pick Up What They Put Down by Sean's. His Twitter handle is SWYX. So this concept is basically um, if you're learning in public, those who are creating content, those who are giving great resources on public, those are the ones that most likely when they tweet, they publish their framework or something that on public or in open source, you're going to be able to give a feedback to them and they will respond back. And so I think I love this concept, and I apply it in the presentation for open source because that's the perfect place where everyone can come and learn from anyone. And we all have different experiences in open source, in not only programming, it can be documentation, design, and so on. And so as you're learning in public, um, many people will see that growth. But I think it would be best if you are looking up to someone, you want to learn from Danny, you want to learn from X developer. Um, if you give a feedback to them, if you take the course they created, like the LinkedIn from, and I'm using Danny, um, and then you come back and then you do a tweet. It said this course is great. I just went through it and I apply it, and I got so many callbacks. I'm sure Danny's gonna respond to you, even though he doesn't know you, and it's gonna encourage you, or perhaps is gonna give you more tips. And I believe that's a very great way to be in open source, create a network, a genuine network with those who can perhaps in the future, most likely, will bring you opportunities whether that's a job, that a collaboration, or a referral to some place. So I think I'm sure that Eddie is not here,
Okay,
but
I'll
open
jump
source
in
for me,
here.
that's kind of like
Rafael,
the way I landed my job in FreeCodeCamp.
thanks
It took me
for
about
sharing that.
probably a year or 2 years working on a project.
I'm not sure if Rafael is able to hear me, but Rafael, if you're able to hear me, thank you for sharing that. And thanks for coming up. So I would say, tagging people, sharing, kind of responding to other people's content, stuff like that. That's a great way to get started. But at the same time, you eventually, you want to start creating your own content too, that could be part of kind of contributing to someone else's open source project. But show what you've done, show your creativity, your problem solving skills, not just, hey, Danny, it was great. Hey, Graham, great co-hosting skill, or whatever that might be. Definitely do that, support other people, but make sure to support yourself too. And one thing I need to mention is I'm getting into an elevator. I know, infamous, and then I'm gonna have to close the space in about 10 minutes. But Vicky, thank you again for coming up here. And Dan, thank you for being here. Good to see you. I don't think, yeah, good to see you. I know you've been probably super busy with X stuff, but good to see you around. And I'm gonna give it to the co-hosts. Again, I won't be able to hear everyone for like a little bit, but I'll be back.
Just go get in your elevator. It's fine. Dan, you got your hand up. It's good to see you in the space. Welcome.
Hey guys, hey, apologies for my voice. I'm getting off a cold, so I sound like a mix of Kermit the Frog and Darth Vader, I think. But I love this kind of a space, and I love this content. It challenges my beliefs. I'm a kind of an old school. I've hired a number of people, and it's more of a traditional path usually. So I love hearing success stories of people using a platform like X to find a job or to demonstrate their skills. It's different from what I'm used to. I think the one thing I wanted to add, because I see people fall into this enough, and like I'm opening up a space soon. I'm going to be hiring a position for like a Tableau admin soon / Tableau developer. I'm in the space of data analytics. So many people, I would say almost selfishly view like what I'm doing and what I'm building is going to be so good that people won't be able to resist my resume or resist what I've done. And a lot of times I just find, practically speaking, it works the other way around. Like I have a very specific need and I have to find someone to fill that role. And like all those other things will help get the job. But really, it really fundamentally comes down to, a hiring manager got funding for a specific position and they're looking for a very specific role. And I don't know, sometimes that part of it gets underestimated. And the part of it, which is like, I'm so great, people won't be able to resist me, gets overestimated. So yeah, again, thanks for the space. This is amazing. It's kind of mind expanding for me, and interested in hearing more.
It's great to have you. I don't hear Darth Vader or Kermit the Frog at all, so thank you. I appreciate you being here. And guys, you should definitely give Dan a follow. Super, and I know we were talking about the whole fitness thing in tech. Dan's right up there too, so go give him a follow.
Just quickly before I go offline for a minute, Jason, you sound super quiet for some reason.
It's these terrible ear pods I got. I apologize. I was trying them out. They're bad.
Don't worry about it, Jason. We're used to you phone troubles, internet troubles, mic.
Is somebody talking right now? I can't tell
We're not doing that. We're not doing that today, Jason, because I know full well that my quality is superb. Oh, yes. But I love the point that Dan was making. Jason, let's not do it. We know we can do it. We're good at this fighting thing. It's fun. But, this is a sensible space. And even with YK in an elevator, so we can take advantage. I'm not doing that today. So I was going to say, Dan, I love that point. There is an old saying, build it, they will come. It's a load of bloody nonsense. At the end of the day, if people don't know you are there, what chance do you have? So I love what Dan was saying, which is make sure that you're in front of people, make sure you get noticed. There are multiple ways to do that, many of which we've discussed in this space. Find the one that you're comfortable with, but put the effort in. If people don't know you exist, they can't hire you, even if you're the best person in the world. I don't see any hands at the moment. Oh, we've got Nada's hand just popped up and then disappeared. So we'll see if Nada has something to say.
No, I'm here. I just wanted to say, just to connect to what Dan was saying and you were saying, Graham, I think that, and I'm not saying this for anyone in here, but just as a reminder, for those of us that are growing our following, we should always stay humble and always remain humble. And I see that with a lot of people in here. There's some people with some big followings, and I really respect them just for that reason. Some of them left too, but they're always humble, always have a value added mindset, and always want to help people out. I'll say YK, for example. I've seen him in person, and there was a girl I met the other day. She said how he was so approachable. He reached out to her. He has 1.9 million followers on YouTube, and he's super approachable. So that's one of the qualities I like about YK. Anyways, that's it. That's it from me. Thank you.
So I'm going to go. Jason, you didn't jump straight in. Oh, have you been put off by the fact your earbuds aren't working? Oh, that's a shame. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say one thing, though, which complements what Nada was saying. Your follow count when it comes to trying to get a job is probably worth diddly squat unless you're trying to get a job where your follower count actually matters. What it actually matters is how many people you're interacting with. Like you could say, well, Layla got a job because she's got like coming up to 100,000 followers. No. Layla was talking extensively about Oracle all the time, interacting with people about Oracle, constantly trying to do stuff in the community. Same with YK, same with Danny, you name it. These people who have the huge followings, their following in of itself has an influence. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't, but that isn't what actually matters. It's the stuff that they're doing elsewhere, the stuff that they're talking about. And it's something that I personally fail at miserably when it comes to tweeting. And I would encourage you to do what I don't do, which is pick a topic to talk about. Make sure it aligns, because we're talking about getting a job here. Make sure it aligns with something to do with the job that you're after, and make it 50% of what you tweet about, or 40% at least. If you're just chatting about random crap, then yes, your online presence is worth nothing, because people don't know what you are about. The rest of it that you do, the networking, that is worth something. And I want to make that distinction. You don't need the big follower count. You need good friends who you can call on and ask, and you need to know how to reach the people. So it doesn't matter if you've got 100 or 100,000. Believe me, it's down to the quality of the connections and what you talk about. So people know, as Dan was basically saying, if Dan was looking for someone who was an accessibility consultant, then me saying, hey, I'm an accessibility consultant with 15 years of experience, all of a sudden Dan goes, okay, wonderful. I can fill that slot, or at least have a conversation about it. That's what you need to be aiming for. People need to know what you're about. And that's where I fail miserably. But I'll go to YK because everyone knows what YK is about, which is abandoning his 2 million subscribers on YouTube. That's right, isn't it, YK?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. To bring that back to life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start live streaming on LinkedIn, interview style or solo. We'll see. But even before that, I'm going to do that first on Discord. And then if it goes well there, I might bring it, over to LinkedIn too. But, and, pinned at the top, of course, But before I go to the next thing, I'm actually going to a physical coffee shop to have like real, IRL coffee chat with someone I met on Twitter or X, I should say. So that's gonna be really cool. It's all about making connections. I actually wanted to hear from Vicky. Did you have a chance to say what you wanted to say, or did you want to do that now?
Yeah, hey everyone. So, if we're talking about how to get a job, I think the most important is soft skills, getting an invitation to the first meeting and getting through the first stage of the interview with a manager or recruiter can be as difficult as the technical part, and you need to be smiling and friendly and open-minded and show that you very interested in it. And the next main thing is to be patient, because no one method, I mean, contributing in open source or sending out your resume or building in public will work in one day. All these methods take time. So I think the main advance is to develop soft skills, try to participate in local conference, contribute to open source, and grow up your network, not only in internet but in local, and be patient. So yeah, I think this is really, really important for everyone. And this is my first space, and thank you for the opportunity.
Can you guys hear me
Of
okay?
course.
Sorry.
We had
Sorry,
an
YK.
X bug, and I stopped hearing Vicky mid sentence, but I was able to read the captions at least. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for I think I reread your tweet. You said, or post, I should say. I keep correcting myself. I reread your posts. You said next time, but I guess you changed your mind. So I'm happy that you came up. Like I said, when people who are hesitant to come up at the beginning come up later, I'm really happy to see that. So let's see. I have 2 minutes until I get to the coffee shop. Jason, I'll give you 30 seconds. Let's wrap this up.
YK, can you hear me? Cool. I can't tell.
I mean, you
Okay,
broke up
I see
then.
the captions.
Oh, great. Okay, so you can sort of hear me. Great space, great value. If you guys found value in anything that anybody said today, please make sure you follow them. So many great tips. I hope a lot of you took notes. And again, there's no like wrong or right way to get a job because everybody's got a different path. So find the tools that work best for you and crush it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for this, YK. I took a ton of notes personally.
All right, looks like Jason stopped speaking. I was able to read the captions at least. I should say thank you so much for being here for us, Jason, Graham, you too. Not gonna forget you. Don't worry. And everyone else on the stage. Leila, Sean, Heather, Netta, YK, Dan, Vicky. Thank you everyone for being here. And we talked about building in public a lot. In my opinion, you can disagree. It is the best way to get a job in tech. We have a session coming up on October 24th at 7 a.m. Pacific time, I think. It's pinned at the top. Feel free to join us there. And let's close it. 3, 2, 1. Bye, everyone.